All right, good afternoon and welcome back to our Wednesday webinar series, Meet the Colleges, Conversations with Florida Regional Admissions Counselors, FRAC. My name is Kathy Hart. I am an educational consultant with Score at the Top Learning Centers and Schools, and I am your moderator for this series. We've placed a few handouts for your perusal under the handouts section of the GoToWebinar control panel. Just a few things about some of our upcoming workshops and some information about college applications to kind of connect with what we've been focusing on this summer. So if you wish to view those, you can just expand the handouts section and then click on the downloads that you wish to view and then enjoy. And as always, in case you encounter any audio difficulties, you can always click on the audio section, go ahead and expand it, and follow the directions to dial in. And if for any reason you have to leave the webinar early or you experience any other technological difficulties, we always make our webinars easily viewable at our site, scorewebinars.com. All of our webinars, past and present and future, are recorded there and always available for your viewing. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This is our fourth session with our friends from FRAC, and tonight we're going to be talking about Big Ten schools and athletics as well too. And so for our audience members, if you haven't joined us for our previous 3 webinars with our previous 3 conversations with FRAC, I encourage you to go back and watch the recordings. We've had some great conversations. They've shared a ton of information about the college application process, about what makes strong college applications, and also a lot of information about their schools, which our presenters tonight will continue to share as well too. And so if you haven't heard of FRAC before, you're new to this webinar series, the Florida Regional Admissions Counselors is an organization created by college admissions representatives who live and work in the state of Florida, but who represent out-of-state schools and serve as a resource for our high school students and counselors who are interested in studying outside of the state of Florida. So if you would like to see a complete list of the member schools, there are more than 20, as well as the names of the representatives and email information. You please go check out their website, wearefrac.org. Additionally, in the email that you received for this week's webinar, and we'll also post it on our on the link to our on the webinar recording. FRAC also, if you want to get in touch with one of the counselors from FRAC, be put in touch with one of the counselors. There's an inquiry form that we have provided a link to, so you can click on that and get in touch with any one of them, and they'll be put in touch with you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenters, and then I'm going to turn the webinar over to them. So first tonight, we have Mary Winterkorn is the Senior Assistant Director of Admissions in the state of Florida for Indiana University. She is new to the IU team, but brings with her 15 years of working in higher education and admissions. Mary holds a BA degree in psychology and an MS in school counseling. She enjoys working with students and helping in any capacity she can. Lander Fleming is entering his 5th year, 11th overall in admissions as a Southeast Regional Coordinator at the University of Maryland, College Park. He oversees recruitment activities in the states of Florida and Georgia and is based in Port St. Lucie. Before working at UMD, he was Assistant Director of Emerging Populations at Longwood University, where he managed recruitment in Northern Virginia, Latin America, and out-of-state markets in the Northeast. Richard Ofterheide is a Michigan State MSU admissions counselor regionally based in St. Pete, Florida. He serves both high school and transfer students from the state of Florida as they navigate the college application process. Richard is a double alumnus of Michigan State University with a BA in Social Sciences Secondary Education and an MA in Student Affairs Administration. He has worked in several functional areas of higher education, including admissions, orientation, student activities, and residence life. This is Richard's 7th year as an admissions counselor for MSU. Antonio Serrano is a Florida Regional Recruitment Manager for The Ohio State University. In this role, Serrano strategically identifies top candidates throughout the state of Florida and Puerto Rico for admission to OSU. He helps students, counselors, and families navigate the admissions process while directing them to the best opportunities at Ohio State. Antonio started in higher education profession in 2003 while obtaining his master's degree in Northeast Pennsylvania. Upon graduating, Mr. Serrano moved to South Florida to work with the admissions team at Lynn University and later Nova Southeastern University. Antonio has also acted as Director of Admissions for a vocational school in Miami. With this wealth of experience, Antonio is well versed with the ins and outs of the admission processes. In his free time, he enjoys spending time at home, the beach, with his dogs and his family. He has traveled extensively, exploring new cultures and destinations. Matt Iwanski currently serves as the Assistant Director of Compliance. He oversees all compliance aspects for women's field hockey, women's lacrosse, and the men's soccer programs, while also assisting with all eligibility functions for Ohio State athletics. Prior to arriving at Ohio State, Matt served as the Assistant Director of Compliance from 2017 to 2019 at Georgetown University. Before Georgetown, Matt was a compliance intern with the University of Toledo while attending law school. From Frederick, Maryland, Matt Iwanski was a member of the Delta State University football program, earning his bachelor's degree in 2014. He also received his Juris Doctorate from the University of Toledo College of Law in 2017. So thank you all for joining us tonight. And just for our audience, please type in your questions in the question box. I'll be keeping an eye on them. And after the counselors conclude their presentation, I will direct the questions and answers. So please type them in throughout, and then we will get to them at the end. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I will turn this over to Antonio from Ohio State.
Hi, everybody. My name is Antonio. Just give me a second while I share my screen. Okay. Is it showing? All right, great. Awesome. All right, so my name is Antonio. I am the membership chair and treasurer for FRAC. I'm also the Florida Regional Recruiter for Ohio State. And today we're going to give you a taste of the 10, and that is the Big Ten Academic Alliance. And so all four of the institutions here today are part of the Big Ten conference, which is our athletic conference, but also the Academic Alliance. So I'm going to share with you now a short video just to kind of give you an idea of what the Academic Alliance is and what that means for our peer institutions here.
The audio isn't coming through, Antonio. If you want, we can pause and I can briefly just talk about the Academic Alliance.
Okay, guys, so I understand the video is not coming through with audio. So correct. I guess we will stop that here. I'm going to let Olander basically summarize this video for you. There's always some issue with technology when we go through that, but I do apologize. I'll turn it over to Olander Fleming from University of Maryland just to give you a brief summary of the Academic Alliance.
Thanks, Antonio. So yeah, we'll call a brief audible on this. You can always look up, you can see in the top left-hand corner the title of the video about the Big Ten Academic Alliance. Feel free to look it up on YouTube, and that will share more information about it. But basically what it is, the Academic Alliance is all of us Big Ten schools that generally compete against each other on the field, on the courts, on day ones or over the weekends on Saturdays. we like to say that we compete against each other over the weekends, but by the time Monday comes, we collaborate with each other inside the classroom. And so with that, there's plenty of opportunities when you're talking about research that are collaborative research opportunities within the Alliance. You also have a shared library system with over 1 million different volumes of books that students can check out from whichever campus you're based on. When you're talking about graduate studies, you're allowed to go to any one of the member institutions for up to a year and conduct graduate research. And speaking of research, just to give you an idea, the Big Ten as a whole conducts more research and receives more funding than the UC, so the University of California system, and the Ivy League system combined. So it's a very extensive research opportunities that you have. And then in addition to it, it's very adaptive as well. So there are many different study abroad opportunities across the campus that you can join with. And then in addition to it, speaking of the current situation with coronavirus, there actually was recently an announcement about a group of shared classes that are going to be online classes that any student that's part of the member or that's part of the Big Ten, you'll be able to take classes with member institutions. They're going to be, at least for Maryland specific, and I think it's going to be most schools, general elective classes, but it's a great opportunity to be able to take a class or two and take advantage of the current situation, be able to learn a little bit more from maybe somebody that might be an expert that's not on our campus or one of our campuses. And you can do so, students can do that from the comfort of their residence hall or their house, wherever they're going to take their fall semester. So that's a very brief review of the Big Ten Academic Alliance. And so I'll pass it back over to Antonio. Thank you.
Thanks, Orlando, for jumping on that. And again, apologize for the audio issues there. We're going to go ahead and move our presentation on to my colleague from Ohio State, Mr. Matthew Iwanski, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the NCAA sports as well as compliance.
Hi, all. Thanks, Antonio. So, trying to be quick about this, but there's a lot of information with NCAA compliance and eligibility that is said to be important. I think we're going to cover a couple of the quick topics today that should be useful for you all moving forward. Antonio, we can get into the first topic. Next slide here. So there are currently, so the Eligibility Center, formerly known as the NCAA Clearinghouse, is kind of the start of all academic certifications for student athletes coming to college to play sports at the Division I and Division II level. The Eligibility Center kind of determines the student's eligibility based off of a set standard of criteria that the NCAA has established over the years. So transcripts, test scores, as well as any other documentation that's requested. So test scores such as SAT and ACT, complete set of transcripts from all high schools that they've attended, kind of go into determining what a student athlete's eligibility is and whether or not they've met the academic qualifications to be an athlete at the Division I, Division II level. So a high school or the student athlete kind of work with the Eligibility Center to make sure that everything is kind of covered. So appropriate high school core courses, the NCAA has a standard set of core courses that are approved for initial eligibility certification. The high schools normally send in those courses and the course list, as well as course information to get those courses approved by the NCAA. Those courses range from kind of the set list of core courses, which are English, math, social science, and then extracurriculars, which normally are your languages, that are all kind of approved from an NCAA standpoint to certify a student's academic eligibility. The reason that they use those 5 courses are because they are pretty standardized across many schools and don't cause a lot of disparity in how those courses are set up. To be eligible to participate in athletics or receive an athletic scholarship, you must graduate from high school, earn a minimum required GPA in those 16 core courses. and earn a minimum 2.3 core course GPA, which comes from those 16 core courses. So when the NCAA is evaluating those core courses out of those 5 subject matter topics, those are the only grades that are counted in that GPA certification. So within that 16 core courses, 4 of those must be English, 3 of those must be math, 2 must be natural or physical science, and then 1 additional year of English, math, or science, 2 years of social science, and then 4 years of additional core. So it can be any of the above categories as well as those foreign language classes that I mentioned before. The students, a couple years ago this changed, but the students are now required to complete 10 of those required 16 core courses before the start of their senior year of high school. These 10 core courses cannot be replaced by any courses that were achieved after that 7th semester or that start of senior year. And those core courses are used to determine that student's GPA and eligibility at the beginning. So 7 of those 10 must be English, math, and natural physical science. This allows kind of the NCAA to determine whether or not that student is going to be academically prepared to enter college and be successful while participating in athletics. I quickly touched on it before. The sliding scale that allows for the NCAA to determine academic eligibility is kind of set by a set standard. And as you can see here, if you have a higher GPA, the NCAA has determined that the test score isn't as important. So if you're achieving a 3.5 or above, a ACT score doesn't need to be as, ACT or SAT doesn't need to be as high as it would have to be if you were on a lower level, as seen as the 2.3, where a 980 SAT would be required just to meet the minimum requirements to be eligible to participate in NCAA athletics. So a qualifier and a non-qualifier. When the NCAA evaluates the academic standing of a student athlete, they determine whether or not they're a qualifier or non-qualifier. A qualifier is a student athlete who meets all the NCAA requirements, which allows them to come into college and participate in athletics fully. There's no restrictions on them that is placed on them by the NCAA when they enter college, as long as they're meeting that set standard before they come in. A non-qualifier is those who do not meet those standards. They can suffer penalties such as becoming an academic redshirt or becoming a just straight non-qualifier, which requires them to sit a year for athletic purposes to try to establish good academic habits and prove to the NCAA that they can and will succeed in college while also participating in athletics. So as a qualifier, and I quickly touched on this, there's no restrictions, so they can practice, compete for the college or university that they get into. They can receive that athletic scholarship, and they have 5 years to play 4 seasons of competition. As a non-qualifier, they are restricted from that practice or competition during that first year. They cannot receive that athletic scholarship, although they can receive any need-based financial aid that is awarded to them. They can still play all 4 seasons in their sport as long as they maintain their eligibility each year. For students who are determined to not be a non-qualifier, at Ohio State, we kind of, and I would imagine across the Big Ten as a whole, we have them sit a year in academic residency, which essentially is that year of prove it to the college to prove that they can actually, and to prove to the NCAA that they can actually succeed as an athlete while also being a student. Many institutions do not take a non-qualifier because the academic or the athletic burden and academic burden of coming into college, taking on a lot of financial aid because they're not able to keep their scholarship when they're determined to be a non-qualifier, Most of the time we'll either encourage them to go to a junior college, or they may end up signing with another university that at the lower level of Division II or Division III that has a little bit of a lower academic standard. An academic red shirt. An academic red shirt is essentially a non-qualifier. It's a high school graduate who has presented the same academic qualifications as a qualifier, except they're missing one of the key metrics that the NCAA is looking for. So they're either missing the GPA requirement, so it's below 2.3, or they do not have the test score that matches that GPA, or they missed a couple core courses. So maybe they only got 13 core courses rather than the 16 that's required to be a qualifier by the NCAA. When they're considered an academic red shirt, they can receive that athletically related financial aid. They are able to practice, however, they are not able to compete when they're a red shirt. So they do have to sit out of all competition when they do get in and are determined to be an academic red shirt. They also must pass at least 9 credit hours in the first semester in order to be eligible the next term. The National Letter of Intent. This is a document that is signed by student athletes that establishes the commitment of that athlete to attend the institution for one academic year. This is normally only signed by first-year students, so freshmen or anyone that hasn't signed a NLI in previous years. An NLI can be null and void if the prospect does not meet any admission standards. So if they do not have that 16 core courses, they do not meet the GPA requirements and determined to be a non-qualifier, that NLI can be invalid. So for the National Letter of Intent, what this does is it helps reduce and limit recruiting pressure on student athletes. It guarantees them their athletic scholarship when they arrive that first year for the full year, and removes any recruiting limitations. So it allows our coaches and our staff to have a limited conversation with them moving forward to help them either meet those academic requirements, keep them track of what they're doing and what their progress is. So recruiting terms, many of you are working with student athletes or have student athletes coming into your office. So if you hear any of these terms, it'll be helpful for you to know what these are, to have a conversation with them about what's really going on in their life. So prospective student athlete, you become a prospect when you begin the 9th grade. So for most sports outside of men's basketball and softball, which you become a prospect in the 7th grade, this term of prospect puts restrictions on them of what a coach can and cannot do during the recruiting process once they turn that certain age. An evaluation is when a coach comes to the practice or to the school to assess their academic or athletic ability. Contact is when a coach is either at the game, practice, or comes into the school to have a face-to-face conversation with that student, their parents, or the institution's coach. An official visit, that is when a prospective student athlete is given a paid visit to the college campus by athletics. They are limited to 5 official visits and only 1 per institution. So that student athlete may only go see 5 separate schools only 1 time. In order to go on the official visit, they must be registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center. We must have a copy of their transcripts as well as a copy of their test scores, and those are required by the NCAA for them to come on an official visit. Many of the student athletes cannot start taking an official visit until August 1st of a student athlete's junior year in high school. There are a couple sports that have a different starting date. Most of those are September 1st of their junior year in high school. And on an official visit, the college pays for pretty much all expenses, transportation, hotels, food, all of that for the student athlete, as well as a couple of their family members. An unofficial visit is an unpaid visit by a student athlete to the college campus that they pay for all of their expenses. The only thing that they receive from athletics during these visits can be complimentary tickets to an athletic contest while they're on the visit. emails and text messages. So for many sports, an institution cannot provide any recruiting correspondence, which is an email or a text message or phone call related to athletics until June 15th of their sophomore year. So that is the summer after their sophomore year, so going into junior year. This can be sent in a variety of different ways. When a student athlete is receiving these correspondence, it normally means that they're higher on the coach's radar, especially if it's text messages or phone calls. It shows that those coaches are normally very interested in those student athletes. A telephone call is similar to the electronic correspondence. There's a lot of varying start dates, so we don't have a lot of them on here, but for a majority of the athletes in high school, that start date is June 15th, outside of baseball, basketball, and football, which can start at pretty much any time.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate your guidance in that. I always learn a lot of information every time I hear that presentation, so thank you. And this will be available for the participants to kind of go through at the PowerPoint if they choose to. So thank you for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, so now we will move on to our individual institutions. We are going to start with Mary Winterkorn with Indiana University.
Hi guys, how is everybody? My name is Mary Winterkorn, and again, I am the regional recruiter for Indiana University. So Indiana University brings together more than 33,000 undergraduate students and about 10,000 graduate students. And they come from all across the world, over 140 different countries, all 50 states. And this creates a very nice, diverse and welcoming feel on campus. So at IU, we have 12 different schools with more than 200 majors. So if you're not sure what you want to major in, that's okay. We know that not every freshman coming to campus has their path set in stone, and we're here to help you with that. So with these 200 majors, we offer more than 4,000 courses every semester, and you can mix and match majors and minors and really customize your degree. The awesome thing about college is that you have that flexibility with your schedule. So you can take some really exciting courses that you may not have had access to in high school. We have a 16-to-1 student to faculty ratio, and our average class size is about 30 students. We want our students to get hands-on experience. So we know you learn best by doing. So experiential ed is really available for all of our students. And in order to get that hands-on experience and apply the knowledge you're learning in the classroom, we want you to seek out those opportunities. And those include things like internships, service projects, field service. And so the hands-on experience isn't just limited to, Indiana or right outside the classroom. We rank 7th in the country for the amount of students we send for study abroad. And you have 65 different countries that you have the option to select from in 18 different languages. So it really is going to kind of, again, suit your needs, and you're able to customize that as you need. We also have Division I athletics. So kind of going off of Matt's previous presentation, if you guys are interested in playing in athletics, we offer 24 men's and women's varsity teams. And our Hoosiers have earned 25 national championships, including 8 men's soccer, 6 in swimming and diving, 5 in men's basketball. The slide that you're looking at now is our admission standards for what you need to be considered for admission to IU. So this year, starting in January before COVID, we actually had just announced that we were going test optional. Anton, if you skip to the next slide, it's a transition slide. This is our middle of the range for students that were just admitted for this fall. So our students that are just coming in right now had a medium range of a 3.6 to a 4.0 GPA. And I guess the slide kind of got bumped down a little bit, but towards the bottom, you can see that I listed that we are test optional with terms beginning for 2021. We also do require an essay, and it is not the essay that's on the common application. It's a supplement, a writing supplement of our own. So we are not going to read the essays that you guys do on the Common App. So please make sure with any university that you're following their specific admission requirements, because all of us deviate slightly. So our essay is about 200 to 400 words, and it's focusing on what you as a student, what your interest is in majoring at IU, your career goals after graduating, and just any extenuating circumstances that you might have had during high school. When I say that, that is excluding COVID. So I know the Common App is putting a section on there where you can share your experiences about COVID and coronavirus and how that's impacted you. So I would encourage you to use that space and save the 200 to 400 words of our writing supplement for, again, focusing on you as a student and what your career goals are. So that's all I have for you. And I am the admission representative. I live here in Florida. I'm a little bit north of West Palm Beach. I'm located in Stewart. So we are still on a travel freeze. So I'm not anticipating a lot of travel this fall in terms of school visits and college fairs, but they haven't given us that official word yet, as some of my other colleagues have. But I'm happy to help. If you guys just want to email me, please feel free to do so. I will be happy to get back to you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, I'm going to take the floor now. Again, guys, my name is Antonio Serrano. I'm based in Miami, Florida, and I'm the Florida Regional Recruiter for the Ohio State University, pardon me. So like my Big Ten peers that are on this presentation, we are a large public institution. We are located in the capital city of Ohio, Columbus. Similar to Indiana, we have a very, people often think that when you think of student-faculty ratio, that's like the size class you're going to be in, but that ratio is basically the number of students we have to the faculty that are employed. So 19-to-1 student-faculty ratio. We do have lecture-style classes, but we also have smaller classes as well once you get into your specific majors. We also have an honors program, so for academically gifted students who want to do more research-based learning, who want to be in smaller size classes, they could apply to be in the honors program to get that sort of smaller environment if they choose that. I will say, though, that nearly 80% of all of our freshman classes have fewer than 50 students, so not all your classes are going to be in big lecture halls. Then we also, during these big lecture classes, we do have what we call recitations, and that's going to be an opportunity for students to be in a smaller group setting where they're able to ask questions, get assignments looked at, go over papers, more on a smaller scale, and then usually one day a week we'll have the larger lecture style class. Those will be offered virtually and in person at Ohio State this fall. So students will have the opportunity to be in the physical setting, or if they choose to be doing virtual classes for some of their program, they can as well. Same as Indiana, we have over 200 majors. So similar to the majors at Indiana, business, engineering, agriculture, pretty much anything a student would want to do at a university, Ohio State has it, and they have it bigly. The only thing we don't offer is marine science. So for all you Floridians who want marine science, you're in the right state for that. Ohio State has a lot of numbers that we can throw out there as far as top this and top that, but the one that I find really great is the Fulbright scholars and Peace Corps volunteers. It's just testament to the types of students that we have at Ohio State. Not only are we an athletic powerhouse, but we're also a research and academic powerhouse for you. The city of Columbus, Ohio, it's an affordable, creative, accessible, and friendly city. From any major market in Florida, it's a direct flight right into Columbus, Ohio, which is the state capital. And we are about 10 minutes from that airport. So it's a quick Uber ride from the airport right to campus. So you can really get to Columbus easily. And you will be in a major city. We're the 14th largest city in the United States. Great for internships, great for your first job opportunities, jobs during college. We're a very diverse city, so over 109 different languages spoken within our populations. So you'll see kids from all over the world there, as well as residents of Columbus from all over the world. Great for hiking, going down the rivers, snow activities. So Floridians, if you're looking for something different, something exciting, that stereotype of that Midwestern friendly, Columbus really kind of sets the bar for that. It's a very friendly city and people are very welcoming. Talking about alumni, we have 550,000 plus alumni living all over the United States, about 25,000 who call Florida home. You might recognize some famous ones like John Glenn, Jesse Owens, just a couple right there, but a ton of great success stories that come out of Ohio State. So you want to make sure that you're one of that Buckeye family. Top 20 for best public values. So that's one of the things I will say for Ohio State is that even though we'll be an out-of-state institution for Floridians, we do offer a very, very lucrative merit scholarship program. So in order to access that money, we require all students to apply early action. And for this year, we have moved our early action from November 1st to November 15th to give a little bit of bumper there for testing and things like that. We also wanted to share that we are going test optional for the fall and spring semester for 2021. So we will reassess that later on if we're going to stay test optional, but for this year, or excuse me, for 2021 will be test optional. But November 15th will be when you have to submit the common application for Ohio State. We do not have our own application and we are not on the coalition. You will only find us on the common application. It's a $60 application fee. And unlike Indiana, we do use that essay from the common application. Also on the Common App, if you're interested in the honors program, you're going to want to indicate that with an additional essay. And then our Morals Scholars program, which is a diversity-based scholarship, that is going to be also required an additional essay. So there's potentially 3 essays you'll have to complete for Ohio State on the Common App. I can't stress enough, this says November 1st, but we did bump that, like I said, to November 15th. So once you start your senior year, August 1st, the Common App will open up. You can submit all your documents before November 1. And when we say complete application, we do mean test optional. So test scores are optional this year, but your transcripts and the application all must be submitted by November 1st. So that's about it for me. My name is Antonio. You can reach me here in Florida. I'm going to be doing a lot of virtual things. So if I'm not at your school, which I won't be, please take a look at our virtual opportunities to connect. If you need help with your application, that's what I'm here for, and I will be your guide through everything OSU. I'll turn it over now to Olander Fleming with University of Maryland.
Thank you, Antonio. So yeah, again, Olander Fleming, University of Maryland. Let's see, I think I've been made the presenter. Accidentally, it's popping up. Does everybody see the slideshow? No, I don't see it either. It says I was made the presenter. I'll just continue because I don't have the presentation up. Let's see, not ready, I'll just click X. Okay, University of Maryland, College Park. It's located in College Park, Maryland. We have about 30,000 undergraduate students that call College Park their home. And so with that, about 44% of our students identify as students of color, so very diverse student body population. In addition to that, we have a lot of different rankings, which if I can get the presentation back up, I will show you all briefly. I don't know what happened with that. There we go, it's back up. So there's some quick stats on the University of Maryland. I mentioned about the 44% students of color, 30,000 undergraduate students. And there are some of the rankings. I know for some students it's very important, rankings and different programs in school overall. Feel free to look up that information on your own time. Some of the things I like to point out, in the Maryland by the Numbers, you will see our mascot, Testudo the Turtle. That's actually the statue version of him. And one of the neat traditions is where before exams, students will rub his nose for good luck on campus. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you. And then another one, you'll see another popular figure right beside him, which is Kermit the Frog. And I actually have him over my shoulder right there. You can see him in the background, but just represents one of our many alumni. So Jim Henson, creator of the Muppets, did attend Maryland, and there's a statue of Jim and Kermit on campus, in addition to Kevin Plank, which is the founder of Under Armour, even some more recent things like the Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary. Two of the executive producers are Maryland alumni and actually very close friends with him, part of his tight-knit circle that helped guide him throughout his career. So some pretty neat alumni that have taken advantage of different opportunities provided. As far as our location, on the next slide, you will see where we're located, some of the different popular areas across the country. We're the only public research institution located in the DC area, at least the DC Beltway. And so you have, with location, plenty of opportunities. We're about a 20-minute metro ride to downtown DC, about 40-minute drive to Baltimore, and you can take advantage of the Inner Harbor, the National Aquarium, a lot of different things there. We're about a couple-hour drive from Philadelphia and about double that time to get to New York. So a lot of opportunities there when you're talking about being able to take advantage of some close areas where you can intern at. One of the biggest things I like to highlight is the DC area. So that's what really makes us unique when you're talking about Big Ten institutions. We're right there where you can take advantage of the research opportunities, whether it be through the National Institute of Health or through with the federal government. You can also go downtown. We have partnerships with the Smithsonian Museum. We send students to the FBI, CIA, Ernst & Young, you name it. There are plenty of opportunities for you to get that experiential learning, and it even flows over into our study abroad opportunities. So you have over 440 different destinations you can study abroad. With those opportunities, you will be able to go downtown to DC and chat up with one of the embassies just to have a little bit more information about the culture or the region you're going to ahead of time. Or if you don't have that opportunity before you get there, when you come back, you can always go down there and take advantage of any resources they have and continue with possibly even an internship or a job with that embassy or land one in their country. So those are some of the things, in addition to the service learning, that we also are very proud of as our Terps take advantage of what we call the Do Good Institute, where we encourage our students to take advantage of the local opportunities to do good in the local community and abroad through our Engineers Without Borders or Doctors Without Borders, just to name a few. This is a list of all of our colleges and majors. And so you have an opportunity to apply to one of our majors within the colleges. One thing that makes us unique, we review our applicants major blind. So even though there are about 9 majors that are what we consider limited enrollment programs, which are more competitive in nature, the review does not take into consideration that program. So you are reviewed based off of everything but that. But before you receive your decision, you will be reviewed by that college to see if you'll be allowed into that program directly your freshman year, or if you'll be put on a gateway program, about 45 credits into your time at Maryland, you'll be able to transfer into that major and finish up your degree. Whichever path you go, you're still able to finish within 4 years. Even engineering could do so, but it's not really recommended for engineering just because it's a lot of research-heavy opportunities, and if you want to enjoy your time as a student, it'd be best to spread that out over to closer 5 years. So that's a little bit about it as far as the colleges and majors. One thing I would like to share with you all as well, a little bit about our admissions process. So I didn't put it up here, but I just want to share with you all. The best deadline to apply is November 1st, of course, of your senior year. We are coalition exclusive, so that's the only way to apply to the University of Maryland. And we recently announced we are test optional for the next cycle. And so with that, it is also test optional for merit-based scholarship consideration, also test optional for special consideration for our honors program and other special living learning opportunities. In order to be considered for any one of those things that I mentioned, November 1st is the deadline to apply and have everything submitted. If you have test scores you'd like to submit, that's okay. They'll still be used in a holistic review. If you don't have them, you won't be put at a disadvantage. If you do have them, you won't be put at a disadvantage either. And so that's important to share. And you can also find that information on our website as far as some frequently asked questions about that. There's my contact information, very similar to what Antonio and Mary shared. I will not be physically inside of schools this year, and nor will I be available virtually. I'm actually taking about 12 weeks off starting August 31st for paternity leave. And so very excited for that. You won't be able to reach me unless you want to do so in August, but you will have a fellow Terp admissions counselor that will be able to answer your questions and hopefully be at some of the virtual events. Thank you.
All right, so here's the last school that we're going to talk about before we answer questions, and I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for that, so I'm going to breeze through. I don't want to sound redundant. The Big Ten schools are sound similar because we are kind of similar in nature. We're all big research institutions, as Antonio had alluded to. My name is Richard Ofterheide. I'm the regional admissions counselor based here in St. Pete, Florida, so I'll work with any of you students here in Florida that'll be applying to MSU over the next year or couple of years if you're a junior or a sophomore. Like my peers, MSU is a rather large institution. In fact, we're one of the 10 largest schools in the country in terms of student population, and we have also the largest single contained campus in the entire United States. We have over 500 buildings on our campus. As you can see there on the slide, we have over just about 50,000 total students, and we're located in East Lansing. Like my peers, East Lansing is there because the college is there. So we're close to the city of Lansing, which is the capital of Michigan. And that's what's kind of great about a lot of the Big Ten schools is no matter where you go, those schools are in pretty good population centers where you have close access to do internships or research, and even if you're not right on your campus. So East Lansing's no different. We have really close proximity to the large cities like Chicago, Detroit, Grand Rapids. You can drive to Toronto, Canada in less than 4 hours from our campus. And we have a train station that you can get to downtown Union Station in Chicago right from our campus in less than 3 hours. So you're pretty close to a lot of things. Like my peers, we have a very diverse incoming freshman class. You can see our freshman class this past year was almost 8,600 students, and our student population is representing over 140 different countries around the world. I went to school to study geography and political science and that kind of stuff, so I like that kind of stuff. And there's just about 200 countries in the world, and more than 140 of them are represented on our campus every day. So those are students you'll learn from and take classes with. Like my peers, we have a ton of different majors to choose from, and similar to Maryland, we don't read your application based on your major. So whatever you put on your application, let us know what you actually want to do, but research shows most students change their mind. So you might think you're going to come in studying, nuclear physics, but you might graduate with a different type of degree. My sister came to MSU and she wanted to be an elementary teacher. So she started as an elementary education major and she graduated with a degree in food industry management. Totally different, working with food and supply chains instead of like second graders and third graders. So keep that in mind as well. Our majors are divided into 17 degree granting colleges. So all of the engineering majors you'll find underneath, of course, the College of Engineering and so on. Like my peers, we have a lot of highly ranked programs, and we could spend hours talking about the merits of our programs. Some of the things MSU is really well known for is we're #1 in the world for supply chain management, packaging engineering, elementary education and secondary education, nuclear physics, hospitality business, and we're also highly ranked in all of our business majors, veterinary medicine, the pre-med track, as well as communications. When you're at a Big Ten school, you have a lot of opportunities to explore. We have over 900 clubs and organizations. We're, of course, Division I athletics. We also have club athletics and recreational athletics on campus. MSU's campus is a very green park-like setting, so if you want to be outdoors and kayak on our river or float down the river on the tube, or you just want to be outside and outdoors, you're going to get all 4 seasons at most of the Big Ten schools, especially in Michigan, you're going to get all 4 seasons. So definitely something to take advantage of. And then moving on. This is our quick profile. Note that all of our schools have gone test optional. MSU will be test optional for at least the next 3 years, and I would suspect that will stay on as part of our admissions process. You can see the middle 50% numbers there. 3.5 to a 4.0 is the average student that was accepted to MSU for fall 2019. Like my peers, the November 1st early action deadline is important for scholarship consideration. If you want to be fully considered for scholarships, make sure you get your application in by then. As Antonio talked about earlier, when you go to a Big Ten school, you're getting a really great value. Even though for all of you Floridians going out of state, that can seem more expensive because out-of-state tuition is going to be more expensive than going to a Florida institution. But most of our schools have really healthy scholarship packages. And when you talk about being a best value institution, many of the Big Ten schools are on that list in the top 25 or 30. And it's not just because we offer scholarships, it's because of the return on your investment. If you look at average starting salaries for Big Ten graduates, they're much higher than a lot of the institutions that you can go to here in Florida. So if that's something that's interesting to you, you're going to get that money when you graduate and get that job, and you get that bonus when you start your first job. So that's something to think about as well. And then these are some pictures of MSU's campus. It's, like I said, a beautiful park-like campus. It's a huge 5,200-acre park. My contact information is down there in the lower left-hand corner. Feel free to text or call anytime. Like my peers, I will not be traveling around to high schools in person. I will be doing a lot of virtual opportunities, and I'm happy to connect and do one-on-one Zoom or Skype sessions as well. Thank you. Thanks for your time, and go green.
All right, so let me see. I don't see the questions box right now, but I do have some other ones. Let's see if we can bring that online there. Let me see. All right, so yeah, some of the questions. Oh, and congratulations, Olander. That's so great. So actually, if you wanted, one of the questions that we've been getting for all of our webinars have been so it doesn't sound like anyone will be traveling this fall. So are any of your campuses, or do you anticipate any of your campuses being open for visits at any point soon? What is that looking like or sounding like?
So I'll start. For Ohio State, we are going to be open for tours. We are just not going to be doing the large group tours as we've done in the past. So typically we'd have 50 plus people on a tour, possibly with a tour guide, going through residence halls and academic spaces and things like that. We're going to be limiting it to individual families. So you'll have to schedule the appointment time for you and your individual family. No more than 4 people per family can come for the tour. And those will be starting up in September. So that's what we're doing now for as far as visiting campus. So you'll want to go to OSU or undergrad.osu.edu/visits to find out opportunities for either virtual visit or person to person.
Good, thank you. What about anyone else as far as fall visits or opening up campus? Yeah, Richard.
I can go next. So MSU, similar to Ohio State, we typically would see just this week alone is normally our big green and white open house events, and over the course of 6 days we would have 12,000 visitors. Obviously that's not happening in person, so everything's virtual. When we do reopen tours, they will be individual family tours as well by individual appointment, which means it's going to be very difficult to actually get a tour, because we're used to touring 100,000 people a year through our campus, and we have maybe 200 tour guides. So, and they are in class and they're students first and foremost, so their safety is of most concern for us. So getting an actual in-person tour from an MSU tour guide will be very challenging for this fall semester. We do have a lot of online resources and are doing a lot of online programming, and we do have self-guided driving and walking tours of our campus that you can download, and if you're on campus, you can do that. Please note that MSU and all of Ingham County, where MSU is located, is wear a mask inside and outside, and none of our tours will allow you to go into buildings. So even if you're outside, you do have to wear a mask.
Good. Olander, what about for Maryland?
Yeah, we're still virtual for the foreseeable future. It's very complicated to try to figure out how to properly staff the visitor center and all the different places that will need to be sanitized. So we're going to do everything virtual for now. You can go to our website, as I mentioned earlier, and check that out. One thing we will start to implement will be Zoom Hangouts, where we will have what we basically have on campus is a counselor on call, where if you were on campus, you would walk in, be able to chat with the counselor in person. We're going to do that through breakout rooms on Zoom. And so you'll be able to sign up. We'll be able to host about 16 families a day, 30 minutes each, and be able to go that route. So if you want the more information, you can do so there, one-on-one. It is a public campus. And so if you decided you wanted to be there, you could. We don't encourage it, but we can't stop you from walking around campus. We want to get that feel for how it is.
And Mary?
IU is kind of discouraging visitors at the moment, just because, again, like my colleagues, we're trying to figure out the best and the safest way to sanitize and social distance. So like Richard said, we do have self-driving tours and self-walking tours. You are required to wear a mask if you do walk on campus or enter into any buildings. There are a few tours you can sign up for online to do in person, but again, they're trying to kind of discourage that right now and just drive people more to the online events. We do have virtual tours online, and then we also have what's called Discover IU Days. So those Discover Days, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There is a time slot that you can sign up for to, similar to as Richard was saying, see a live presentation and talk with somebody in admissions. So you don't have to just be at the whim of the virtual tour. You could actually, be on a virtual call with somebody that's going to be able to kind of guide you and answer those questions. So before visiting any campus during this COVID, I definitely would encourage students to seek out what their visiting options are, and just know that they change. It's a fluid situation, and every day we're getting new updates, and sometimes they're something new, and sometimes it's just kind of reiterating what we already know. So just definitely do your research first.
Great, thank you. Let's see, we've got a question from one of our audience members, and they ask, up to how much can scholarships cover for Florida residents at each of your schools? So if you want to comment on some of the different scholarships that are offered, maybe I'll start with you again, Antonio, and then we'll go around, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So students have the potential to get full rides as an out-of-state student to Ohio State, as long as they meet that early action deadline. So the biggest scholarship program that we have is called the National Buckeye Scholarship. And that one is our largest out-of-state grant. That's $13,500 per year for all 4 years. So that would be the largest one. We have 3 additional scholarships. So the presidential, the trustee, and the Maximus. You can stack all 4 of those awards up to get around $20,000 per year in just merit-based money. And then we have what we call our Moral Scholarship Program. So the Moral Scholarship Program is seeking out specific students. We gave this to around 500 students last year. They would need to meet that November 1st or early action deadline, November 15th this year. But that one is a full tuition scholarship for all 4 years. That one is for any student who is involved in social justice, diversity sort of initiatives in their high schools or communities. And so they would have to basically demonstrate their participation and their knowledge about social justice issues in an essay format. So they would submit that along with the common application. Another big one that we have is our research scholarship. And so those would be for honors level students, and that would cover the full cost of tuition, plus a research grant each year. So there's lots of ways to get money if students are aware. Once students are admitted, they would automatically be reviewed for that merit-based scholarship packaging. So the National Buckeye, Trustee, Presidential, and Maximus. The Moral Scholarship would be through the essay, and then the research scholarship would also be through an essay format and an interview format. You can put all that together right along with need-based aid. So if you're eligible for need-based scholarship, you can combine that with your merit-based scholarship. In addition to all those things that I just mentioned, there are going to be programmatical and departmental, alumni, all sorts of other scholarships that students will be able to get as well. So once they're admitted, we automatically review them for the merit scholarships, but then they would have until February 1st to submit a supplemental application for additional scholarships. And so if they're going into the School of Business or Agriculture, or if they're a woman going into engineering, there'll be different kind of awards that would supplement that, anywhere from $2,000 a year up to $15,000 a year. So as long as a student gets in touch with their admissions counselor, knows what opportunities they are, they'll set themselves up for the most scholarships.
Good. And where would students be able to find for the additional scholarships, the ones that they might have to look out for the major? Where would be the easiest place for them to find that information?
Right. So those aren't posted on our website. Those are going to be allocated to current students and to freshmen, incoming freshmen. So once a student's admitted, as part of their admissions packet email, they're going to have a link to apply for special scholarships. Also, I'll be sending out emails for my population here in Florida to kind of remind them to get into that special scholarship application so they can see what those are and how they can apply for those.
Great, thank you. Richard, what about at MSU? What about the scholarships there?
Yeah, I'm going to venture to say that a lot of us have pretty much very similar things to Antonio, what he just said, but maybe different names. So, you know, every scholarship he just said, I'm shaking my head because we have something that sounds very similar to that. So not to repeat everything, one of the things I think is important is to do your research early. Many schools have scholarship deadlines, which usually associate with that early action deadline of, you know, November 1st or November 15th this year. You know, MSU, of course, just like Ohio State, you can get up to a full ride. I like to put an asterisk by that because it's very few students who actually do get a full ride to most of our schools. So we have an alumni distinguished scholarship competition. So if you're invited to our honors college and you applied early, you'll automatically be invited to an on-campus scholarship competition where we have about 1,200 students come each year, and you take an MSU test that every academic department on campus submits questions for. So there's no possible way to study for this test. It's just a general knowledge type of test, and we do interviews based on students that do well on that test to award full rides or full tuition scholarships. If you're an out-of-state student who is admitted to our honors college, certain levels of the honors college automatically equalize you to in-state tuition, plus you can stack other merit-based scholarships on top of that. I also think it's important to not just solely rely on the institutions in awarding you scholarships. If you're going to qualify for our level of scholarships as an out-of-state student, you're also going to be a really strong candidate for maybe local scholarships that you can take to any college that you're going to. So there are a lot of really great tools like Scholarship Hunter and a lot of the websites you guys are using to figure out which colleges are good fit for you, they offer scholarship hunting services. So use those services, and that should be your part-time job as a junior and a senior in high school, is being a scholarship hunter and really figuring out and filling out those applications throughout your senior year.
Good. Olander or Mary, anything else to add for your schools?
Well, to echo Richard, that's very important. Do the research on your own. Maryland is, our scholarships range from $2,000 to a full academic ride, but imagine it like a pyramid where the great bulk is going to be that $2,000, $5,000, $8,000, $12,000. So as you go up in the amount, the lesser number of students are actually going to be awarded that. Outside of that, the only other thing you should ask any college that you're looking to apply or look it up is if there's a separate application for scholarships. For Maryland, there is no separate application. Just have everything in by November 1st, admissions-wise, and we will take care of everything on our end.
Great. And Mary?
And then for Indiana, we have a Dean Scholarship for our out-of-state students. So my Florida students would qualify for that. And it's anywhere from $1,000 to $11,000, and that's renewable for 4 years. So another important question to ask schools, you know, is that renewable or is it just a one-time scholarship? We also have scholarships that you can apply for in addition to that Dean Scholarship, and typically those are based on your through with your major. So those are stackable. So if you got a Dean Scholarship and a scholarship through Kelley School of Business, you could stack those scholarships. We do have a separate website for scholarships, and that is scholarships.indiana.edu. We also have that November 1st deadline. So you haven't heard, that's a pretty common theme for applying for free money. So don't miss that deadline. And we open our application August 1st, so students can even start applying before they go back to school.
Great. No, thank you very much. Well, let's see. Well, we're just about at the hour here. Let me just see if I see any other questions popping up. And I don't. So actually, I just want to just one more question that we've gotten from a lot of our audience members over the series, and they always want to know, and also counselors want to know as well too, as admissions representatives and admissions counselors, as August 1st kind of looms, you know, just a couple weeks away, what advice would you give to rising seniors and their families as they move into the college application season? What do you think is the best advice for families and students to manage the process, to handle the stress of this?
Just, you know, do your best and do your research. I think it's the kids that wait till the last minute that are the ones that are panicked and overload. And then another piece of information I can add is just with a lot of the school being virtual, those grades still count, guys. I was talking to a neighbor friend of mine, and he's in high school, straight A student, got a D this last semester in math. I'm like, you can't have a D in a major course like that. So I know the online and the virtual is going to be hard for you guys, but we still are looking at those academic grades. So you have to do well.
I would also add to that, I think it's important for young people starting this process. It's a big process. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get organized. So I recommend putting together a spreadsheet and start, each one of our institutions have different, scenarios on how to apply, what's going to be the best candidate, right? So you want to be strategic on making sure that you save some room for reach schools, schools that are safety schools, and then everything in between, right? So you want to be strategic on what you're applying to. I would also recommend don't just apply to schools that your friends are applying to, because what might be good for them might not be good for you. So try to think outside the box, right? You're going to want to have your Florida schools on there. Make sure you have some out-of-state schools on there, some public, some private. Diversify that portfolio so you can have some options, right? If you are Hispanic living in South Florida, there may not be a ton of diversity scholarship for you to attend to South Florida University, right? But maybe we checked out Michigan or Ohio, where there are less of a population, there might be some opportunities there for those types of things. So be strategic also when you're looking at different locations, what they might be looking for as an institution, what their mission statement is, what they're really looking for in a student to get the best fit for you and your family.
Great. Richard?
Yeah, I would just add, enjoy the process. I know that sounds weird because we're talking about creating spreadsheets and how stressful this is, but you want to find ways to de-stress this process, because it really should be about finding the right fit for you, and know that there are more than one school that could be a good fit for you. Don't get so hung up on just one school. It will not make or break your life if you don't go to that one school. You can find great opportunities and be super successful at a myriad of schools. So during the process, do your research, make sure you're actually being smart about it. When you're writing your essays, have another person proofread them. That little blue check box on Microsoft Word, that's a great tool, but that's just spell check. So you want to have someone else proofread your work before you're submitting it, but don't overthink it, don't overwork it. I see so many students every year that they wait till the very last minute to submit because they think that they might magically think of something better to say, and by then they've overworked their essays and everything, and it sounds so robotic. So sit down, take some time, write your essays, create your application as a resume, but don't overthink it, proofread it, and then submit it, and don't wait till the last minute to do that.
Great advice. Olander?
Well, I'm just going to share, these are unprecedented times for everybody. And so don't stress out about things that are beyond your control in the process. Make sure that you follow us on our official social media accounts or are on our email listservs. Things are changing. A perfect example, University of Maryland. If you were on the session last week, I told everybody we require test scores. This week, we are test optional. Things are changing like that. And the only way to be up to date on that information is following one of our official channels. With the stress and everything, I wouldn't encourage. I actually recently heard about a family that over the weekend, I think they might have driven from Atlanta or Georgia all the way to South Dakota, I believe it was, just to take an SAT or an ACT, one of the two tests, and they were turned away because the test was only offered for that school. Don't do that. If it's one of the schools that you're looking at is still saying they're requiring the test, be patient with it. Like Antonio said, come up with your other plans, your backup plan. If no test can be offered between now and that deadline, that school cannot require it. Well, they could require a test, but their applicant pool is going to be much smaller than what they had hoped. So I'm sure things will turn out and work out for your favor. So just sit back, relax, and pay attention to the updates and enjoy your senior year, whether it's virtual or eventually in person. Enjoy it with your family and be safe through it all.
Just one more thing I want to add too. Just be nice to people too. Like everyone is very tense, right? And so in the past state, we haven't had time to look at social media, but I will say that you'll want to refrain from any social media bullying or posting things that might be cruel. We're virtual and we're not going to be driving as much, we are going to be asked to look at some of those things. So you never know if we land on your page and we see something that might be negative, how that will impact your application. So, just be nice when you're online, and remember that bullying is never cool.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all so much for sharing such great information, and also thank you to Matthew as well too. I know he had another commitment, but he shared some great information. And certainly, if we missed any of your questions or if you have any follow-up questions, you can always send them to me. I'm hart@scoreatt.com. We'll also have that the link to the inquiry form for FRAC available as well too when we send out the link to this recording, and also make it available on our recording website. So students, if you want to be put in touch with any of our FRAC members this week, previous weeks, and then for our final session next week, believe it or not, we're coming to the end of our series. So next Wednesday at 5 p.m., I'm going to be hosting counselors from Berry, Bucknell, Muhlenberg, Sacred Heart, and Seton Hall for our final conversation, and we're going to be talking about the liberal arts. So do bring questions, audience members. Thanks once again to our awesome panelists. And everyone out there, have a great week. Be safe, healthy, and kind to each other. And thank you very much. Have a good night. Bye.